Hey guys, it's Communications. Welcome to my review of Enemy Territory. Enemy Territory is a 1987 film. It's directed by Peter Manoogian. Peter Manoogian's a director that he does a lot of low-budget flicks. He directed Arena, which is a space kickboxing movie with, I think, something's like Slatterfield is the name that comes to mind. It's the one that has Horn, the cyborg bull boxer. Yeah, it's a really zany movie, but I enjoy Arena. I'm gonna say it's a better movie than this. This is one of those movies where I can't really say it's a piece of shit, but I can't really say it's a good movie either. So it's gonna be kind of a tough film to review because there's it's like one of those like in between. Like it's not good enough to be considered good, but it's not shitty enough to be considered shit. So it's just in the middle. It's kind of shitty, kind of bad, kind of shitty, kind of okay. It's like up in the air. It's like one of those like, oh god. Like I hate reviewing movies like this because it's hard to get across, in my opinion, you know, how I truly feel about the movie. If I'm just in the middle, it's kind of hard, you know. Yeah, I'm in the middle with this movie. It sucks to be stuck in the middle when it comes to reviewing movies. It's really difficult to get that point across. Anyway, the film, it stars Gary Frank as Barry, an insurance salesman who gets caught on the wrong side of town. You have Ray Parker Jr. who plays Will. Yes, it's the same Ray Parker Jr. who sang Ghostbusters. Yep, acting in his feature film debut. And actually, he does a good job. I didn't mind Ray Parker Jr. In fact, I wouldn't have minded seeing him in other films, but wasn't meant to be, and he didn't really do much after this movie. Just pretty much stuck to music, which I don't blame him because the movie did absolutely nothing in the box office. It didn't get a wide release, so it didn't really get a chance, but it's not like there's going to be a hit anyway. And then you have Michael-Vincent as Parker, who's an ex-Vietnam vet in a wheelchair. No relation to Lieutenant Dan. And he's got a tricked-out wheelchair. It sounds more awesome than it really is. Frances Foster is Elva Briggs. This older African-American lady who's basically the main reason why Gary Frank ends up in this wrong side of town in the first place. Tony Todd is the leader of this gang called the Vampires, and his name is the Count, and he's overacting and he's hamming it up, but he's enjoyable. I'll admit, I like Tony Todd in this. He's fun to watch. He's really chewing up the scenery right and left and spitting it out, but he's enjoyable. He's fun to watch. He's enjoyable. You can tell that he's having fun with his role. Stacey Dash in her feature film debut is Tony Briggs. Excuse me, moving the camera here. Deon Richmond as Chet, who I believe is the little kid who basically ends up kind of in a way leading Ray Parker Jr. and Gary Frank to a secret place to get out of the built apartment complex, to get away from the vampires, but not really. And then you have a few other actors here and there. Robert Lee Rush is Psycho, who is this who's the right hand man of Tony Todd. He's a bitch and afro. It's pretty much what I remember the most. It's just this bitch and afro that this guy has. Now, the movie has a cult following, which I don't get because I don't see this movie at all deserving a cult following to me. But that's fine. There's some movies out there that have cult followings that people, you know, don't like, and that's cool. There are people out there who hate, like, the Rocky Horror Picture Show and think that something like Frankenhooker is crap or whatever. That's fine. I enjoy Frankenhooker. I enjoy Rocky Horror Picture Show. I wish I could say I really, truthfully enjoyed this movie, but I gotta be honest, it was a chore to sit through. I only watched this movie because it has somewhat similar plot to Judgment Night. And I wanted to see if there's other movies like Judgment Night. And this one came up when I looked at a list online. And I'd heard about the movie through a few other books and stuff that I have, movie review books. And they said I saw some favorable reviews of it, so I thought, alright, I'll give it a look. And to be honest, it kind of disappointed me. Because it gets like a 6.4 out of 10 on IMDb. I got a cult following, people saying it's a B-movie classic, and I just didn't see it. I saw some fun lines of dialogue, which are funny, like Ray Parker Jr. in a scene with him and J. Michael-Vincent and Gary Frank. J. Michael-Vincent is basically asking Ray Parker Jr. why he's helping this guy, why he's helping Barry. And he says, like, you know, white guy in the inner city, like, what the hell are you doing? Risking your life for this white guy. And he's like, I don't care if he's white, black, or fucking fudge ripple. I'm gonna help him. It's like, did he just say fudge ripple? Oh, this movie's awesome. But the movie's only awesome, you know, for someone like me who enjoys... I enjoy a good B-movie. I enjoy a good amount of cheese in my movies every now and then. But, you know, it's got to have more than just fun lines of dialogue for me to truly find it a worthwhile experience. And there's funny lines of dialogue. There's fun sequences in this movie that I can see why people, you know, enjoy the movie. But everything else, in my opinion, sucks. Okay, the action is non-existent. There is no action in this movie. Might as well be called an inaction movie. Nothing happens that is at all memorable or worth watching again. Especially when comparing to a movie like Judgment Night, which is actually thrilling and exciting, or The Warriors. There's nothing to this movie. It's a decent idea. Yeah, idea of, you know, insurance salesman, Barry, played by Gary Frank, who has to go in the inner city into an apartment which is overrun by gang members, and he's stuck overnight because his asshole boss basically told him, oh, if you don't get this deal done today by blah blah this point in time, we won't get the deal because the competition is breathing at breathing on our necks, and they'll get it first, and that means you won't get paid at all. So you better get your white butt over down to the inner city to this apartment complex, get a hold of Elva Briggs, get the money from her, and come back, and you get you get your bonus or whatever, and I get money too, and we'll all be happy. But you better get back before nightfall. That's pretty much it. Like, so he manages to get up there, gets help from the security guard guy, who I had fun with. The guy did a good job. He didn't last long in the movie, though. He ended up getting taken out pretty quick. I remember chuckling at this line of dialogue that he had. I like this line, where the security guard, he helps him up to Elva Briggs' room. Frances Foster, the actress, she gives him money in cash instead of a check. So he gets out of the room. She's like, you better get going, son. And it's getting dark outside. The vampires are coming out at night. Which, really, to be honest, when hearing the gang members' names are vampires, I honestly wish it was just really vampires. Like, actually, these gang members are called the vampires because they actually are vampires. That might be more exciting, a lot more fun, to be honest. Tony Todd is a vampire? Awesome. Like, he already says shit like he's a he calls himself the Count, for Christ's sakes. It just should have been that way. I mean, he says lines like this, which I crack up at, but, I like that. He's even hisses like a snake in one scene. He's like, 4 of my soldiers are dead, and those cockroach scum still free, spreading their cancer through my castle. It was just ridiculous, hilarious shit. Like, that's enjoyable. I'll admit. I enjoy the movie when you have, you know, cheesy, fun, B-movie lines like that in the film that you just can't help but laugh at these lines. You know, Fudge Ripple and, you know, Tony Todd's overacting, but come on, like, he's saying lines like that, he should be a vampire. It's just a no-brainer. But anyway, they're not vampires, they're just generic gang members, which really makes it a pretty generic movie. And it was a missed opportunity, in my opinion. And so, just like J. Michael-Vincent's character, I like J. Michael-Vincent's character. He's a Vietnam vet, he's got some fun lines and everything, fun scenes. Got a cool, tricked-out wheelchair, shoots arrows and stuff. But he only uses it once, shoots one guy with an arrow. He says this line. He says this line before he ends up. This is what J. Michael-Vincent says directly before he gets shot and killed. Basically, there's a war going on out there, man, and this time I'm not going down. And then he gets killed. Yeah, what a badass. What a badass. He gets shot in the chest and he's dead. That'd be like if you hadn't seen a Rambo 3, like the lead scene, where you have Colonel Zayas or whatever, the frickin' Russian guy, and you have that scene where Stallone's like, who are you? It's like, I'm your worst nightmare. And then Stallone gets shot. Then Rambo gets shot in the fucking face and dies. That's how lame that would be. Like, we had a scene in another Rambo movie where Stallone, Rambo's like, you know, I'm not going down without a fight. And then he gets shot in the chest. Dead. End of movie. End of Rambo. See how fucking lame that is? That's not badass at all. That's fucking lame. And I understand that might be the point. I don't know. Maybe it was trying to be funny. But I just thought it was lame. I didn't think it was funny at all. I thought it was lame, and it was a cheat. It was cheap. I felt cheated because I liked that character, and I wanted to see him use the wheelchair more. That I kept reading about in all the reviews that I've read and some of the books that I have and online. Like, it was so awesome. Michael-Vincent is so awesome in this movie. But he gets like one arrow, shoots one guy with an arrow, and he gets shot in the fucking chest. What's so awesome about Michael-Vincent in this movie? He does less than Oracle does in Steel. He does less than the chick in the wheelchair does in Steel. You know you're not awesome if the chick in the wheelchair in Steel with Shaquille O'Neal kicks more ass than you do. So, no, I don't see what's so awesome about this character. He just says a few fun lines, has a cool wheelchair, and then gets killed like a bitch. So, no. Yeah, I'm looking at a review on IMDb. Like, the first one that pops up is B-Movie Jewel. Gets a 6.4 out of 10 on IMDb. That's a higher rating than Cobra. Higher rating than Cobra. I believe, and also Tango and Cash. 2 10 times better action movies than this. And it only gets like, I think Judgment Night only gets like a 1 point higher rating than this. Judgment Night gets a 6.5 and this gives a 6.4. This is Judgment Night is miles better than this. This is lackluster. You know, lackluster movie at its finest, in my opinion. And this isn't really a rant because I'm like, I don't hate the movie. There's some things I got some enjoyment out of it once I was able to finally finish the thing after like 3 different tries, 3 different nights. Couldn't finish it the first night, tried again the second night, got halfway through, couldn't finish it, and then the third night I finally finished it. You know, that's not a good sign. And that because the movie, and because honestly, the movie has a terrible pacing. It's not that long of a movie. It's only like an hour, 89 minutes, but it's so fucking slow. And I think that's because the director, he just doesn't know how to create a film with a lot of energy and life to it. It just feels lifeless and dull and listless and just goes from scene to scene to scene. And you don't have any action sequences to really excite you either or get your blood pressure up, so you're just sitting there waiting for the next ridiculously funny or unintentional hilarious moment, and then that's it. That's all the enjoyment you get out of the movie. That's all the entertainment you get. Ha ha ha, look at Tony Todd overacting, that's funny. Oh, Fudge Ripple, ha. Oh, Gary Frank and Ray Parker Jr., they jump out of the window, they slide out of the window, end up in this other apartment complex, and land on this little girl's bed, and she's all at little black girl's bed, and she's like, oh no, please don't rape me. Ha 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 ha, that's so funny. She thought they were gonna rape her. Ha! That's pretty much all you get. That's the enjoyment you get out of this movie. Like unintentional or intentional cheesy lines of dialogue that make you laugh, but then you have no action sequences to really make you want to continue. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't be surprised if people just shut this movie off. You know, watch it and then, or watch it once and forget about it, because that's what it is. It's a forgettable movie. I don't see why it's some B-movie jewel or some gem that needs to be on DVD. Sorry, I just don't get it. I'll admit one thing though. That song at the end credits, Friend or Foe, by the Boogie Boys, that's kicking. That's an awesome song. Even the song in the beginning, in the opening credits. You know, I like the song at the end credits. That's one of my favorite parts of this movie, is the song at the end credits, which really, in my opinion, cleverly used John Carpenter's theme from Halloween in like a hip-hop song. And I like that song. And I posted it on my channel, so you can tell I like that song. But other than a few lines of dialogue and that fun and a few cool songs, like, what else does the movie have to offer? So if you're wondering what happens in the end of the movie, pretty much what you expect. Gary Frank gets help from Ray Parker Jr. as a cable TV repairman. He's got one little dinky gun that he uses maybe once or twice. He ends up shooting Psycho with it, and he screams like a bitch. It falls down an elevator shaft. And then later in the film, somehow is alive and chases after them in the basement and gets shot and killed for the second and final time, which should have been non-existent. I thought he was a real vampire. This would be a twist. He's actually a real vampire, or he's a zombie. But no, he was just a normal guy, kind of like the bad guy, Alexander Gudinov in Die Hard, who showed up at the end, like, after he was, like, hanged. There's no way he's alive. But that's Die Hard. I can let that slide in Die Hard, because Die Hard's a better movie than Enemy Territory. Die Hard has action. Die Hard is action-packed to the fucking gills. This is weak sauce. So anyway, so Gary Frank and Ray Parker Jr., they team up. They run around the building. They get chased by the vampires, not real vampires, the vampires gang. The vampires gang break in other rooms looking for Gary Frank. Much like Judgment Night, but it's done a lot better in Judgment Night. And Gary Frank and Ray Parker Jr. hole up with J. Michael-Vincent. He helps them out, but then he gets shot and killed. They get out. They run out. They end up going from one apartment complex to another. They meet the house with the girl who's like, "Don't rape me," and then they get kicked out of that apartment by the parents. They end up in an apartment with some hooker or whatever, and she ends up helping them or something briefly. Yeah, random. It was just that scene was just an excuse to show tits. That was it. Just an excuse to show tits. Show some titties. That's it. To keep me awake. So, show some tits. They get out. The vampires are chasing after them. They run into fucking, the psycho guy, shoot him, falls down an elevator shaft. One of the girls, Stacey Dash, runs to the cops to get for help. She gets chased by some gang members. She escapes, gets to the cops. They don't want to help her because she's in the inner city, and they're like, "Oh, whatever. Shit happens over there all the time because we're assholes. There's nothing we can do. Oh, it's the inner city. The vampires are taking over. We're a bunch of pussies. We don't want to die. Next." Pretty much. It's pretty much it. And so now it's Gary Frank, Ray Parker Jr. You get the help from this kid named Chet, who leads them supposedly to the secret escape route from the apartment. Doesn't work. They end up in the basement. End up running into the living dead version of fucking Robert Lee Rush, Psycho. He ends up getting killed, finally, like I said earlier. They end up escaping. The daylight, breaks. The Count chases after them with a shotgun. He's like, it burns the sun. And, which I was like, really? Are you really a vampire, Tony Todd, or are you not? I don't know. Maybe he was confused. And then he ends up getting shot, gets the shotgun taken away from him, or gets the gun. Ray Parker Jr. gives Gary Frank the gun, and he ends up shooting the Count. Or is it Ray Parker Jr.? I don't remember. I don't fucking care. Either one of them shoots the Count, and he dies. And then Gary Frank, Ray Parker Jr., and the chick, they live happily ever after, get out of this night alive, and then Friend or Foe plays at the end credits, and I'm dancing to the song, but then I'm like, yeah, well, that wasn't that great. That's pretty much my reaction to the movie after it was over. After the cool song was over, and I was like, that wasn't very good. That's pretty much what this movie is. It's like, that wasn't very good. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't a piece of shit. But it wasn't very good either. So it's like one of those, like, it's not quite a piece of shit, but it's still pretty bad. So I really don't know what to say about Enemy Territory. There's not much to say about this movie. There's no action to speak of that's memorable. There's a few lines of dialogue that are fun. Like, there's another line of dialogue I like with this security guard guy who ended up getting shot earlier in the film. He helps out Gary Frank get to Francis Foster's apartment complex, Elver Briggs, to get the insurance, They get to insurance payment. And he runs into the Count and the company in an elevator, and he's like, they're like talking about honor, and he's like, I don't give a pig's tit about your honor. No, move out of the way before I paint the elevator walls red. And I'm like, haha, what a badass. But he ends up getting shot for all his trouble, so he's not much of a... He gets stabbed, actually, not shot, so he's not really much of a badass anyway. But I like that line. But yeah, it's a lot. That's pretty much what a lot of this movie is. I like that line. Oh, that's a fun scene. Ha ha. Oh, Ray Parker Jr. isn't that shitty as an actor. Oh, haha, Tony Todd, you're awesome. And then, oh, friend, oh, and then the movie's over, and then you're like, okay, all right. It's not really harmful to your health. It's not one of those movies you're going to sit through and be like, oh my god, kill me now. It's not that type of movie. But it's ultimately not really much worth your time either, unless you're really curious about it. Unless you're like a diehard Ray Parker Jr. fan, you're like, oh man, I need to see what he's like as an actor, or you're like a huge, huge fan of J. Michael-Vincent, and like you want to see every movie J. Michael-Vincent is in, then check it out. But other than that, I really wouldn't highly recommend this movie at all. I don't understand the 6.4 rating. I don't understand the B-movie cult following it kind of has. I don't get it. Maybe it's because I don't relate to it. Maybe there's people who were in gangs or in that, who lived in that area that really liked the movie. I don't know. But other than that, I mean, I wish I could have really enjoyed the movie because I heard a lot of good things about it and I wanted to really like it, but ultimately I just thought it was just like I said, not very good. Not god awful, but not very good. I've seen worse, but I've also seen better. So I really don't know what to say about Enemy Territory, except thanks for watching my review. Of course, also rate it. I'll rate it 2 out of 5 stars. Like I said, it's not very good, but it's not the worst thing ever. So it's like it's not. It's like the perfect example of a 2-star flick. It's like I am perfectly fine with never watching this movie again. I have it on VHS and storage in Oklahoma, and that's good enough for me. Unless I see it for like 50 cents somewhere, I'll add it to my collection just for collection's sake because it's not on DVD. But other than that, really not going to pay an arm and a leg for this one. I feel no need to. But anyway, folks, that's my review of Enemy Territory. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later. See ya.